We've been doing movie nights for
years.
So Gen Xer and
A Gen Z. Random weird moments that the two of us have experienced, and there are a lot of those.
And he crashes them.
As you do.
It's like, I'm just sitting there and I'm like, where did this come from? Why are we singing?
I mean, you're not going to learn anything about the movies listening to us talk. This is the Argo City Podcast. Film, conventions, and fan life with Maddie and Matthew. I need to tell you a little bit about my childhood theater.
Okay.
So this was the Avon Lake Theater. And see, movie theaters were different when I was growing up. We used to go to the Avon Lake Theater. This is a 4-theater place.
So it's like a mega theater?
Yeah, well, for you a mega theater is 12 or 24 rooms.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
12, 24 screens, something like that. I mean, we were shocked when the Midway Mall came up with an 8-screen theater. Avon Lake was my go-to. It was 4 screens. It had Avon Lake in giant illuminated letters above the marquee, and you actually walked in, you paid, and the concession stand was on the left-hand side, and it was weirdly asymmetrical. It doesn't exist any longer. The building's still there. Actually, the Avon Lake letters are still there, but It's not a theater anymore. It's some weird tanning place.
Oh, that's sad.
But this is where I went to see 80% of the movies that I saw as a kid. Like for you, it's Amherst Cinema.
Yeah, Amherst, like 15 minutes down the road, I think.
Yeah, and that's where we've taken you. Amherst Cinema is our local cheapo theater.
Yes, we love them.
We
Staff
do.
is always so nice.
They're very much a part of the community, and I'm grateful as an adult that they've cut the ticket prices down to $3, $4, $5, which has allowed me to take you guys to theater.
Yeah, like in this day and age, it's amazing.
Yeah. When I was a kid, my father liked going to the movies, so he'd take us to the movies frequently. And I'm glad we've been able to do that same thing for you. So, and it's also kind of cool to me that you've got Amherst Cinema as like the one you think of. But for me, it's Avon Lake. And Avon Lake's on my mind tonight because the movie we're watching is one of my childhood movies. So tonight was The Last StarFighter.
Mm-hmm.
We've mentioned before, too, that Mom and I had like kind of a list of, in our minds, not an official, but just kind of a theoretical list of movies that we got to make sure you guys see.
Yeah. Somehow
this fell between the cracks.
Really?
This is one that should have been on that list. Because
this would have been on your list or Mom's list? Or both?
Might have been both. I mean,
She did know what it was when I pulled it out of the box, so...
Yeah.
That doesn't happen often nowadays.
Star Wars created this weird sci-fi boom. There's a bunch of these movies. We got you guys to watch a bunch of them, like Explorers or Flight of the Navigator.
Yeah.
But this was one that we just didn't quite get to.
Yeah, I think it's probably just been sitting in there a little while.
Mm-hmm. And because it's a video game movie as well, that's one I wanted to get to you, because for a while there you were very, very video game oriented.
Oh, yeah. Pretty much up till high school, until I started kind of dropping off and getting into anime. But that's just like the natural order of things.
And this is, at least in my generation, this was a kid's movie. 1984, this was still a kid's movie. Which is saying something, because there's some pretty intense stuff in here.
Yeah.
Well, so you tell me a little bit about what you were thinking. So this is a guy about 19 years old, probably, just out of high school, looking to get out of the hometown trailer park, but college isn't knocking on his door exactly.
Yeah.
And the girlfriend's kind of, I don't know. And he scores a high score in a video game, which actually happened to be a test. And space comes calling because we need you to actually do it for real now. We need you to fly a spaceship and defeat the evil hordes of Kodan.
Mm-hmm.
So, now on to you. Because you were taking notes, and you had some interesting insights here.
I'm just going to go right off the deep end. I love the cat that sits on top of the machine, and I am so mad that he never gets a name.
I figure it's warm up there. Like, we actually have an arcade machine back here in my library. I built this out of...
It's sitting right behind him. I'm staring at the screen right now.
Yes. And I built this out of an old Pac-Man machine. It's a MAME cabinet, if you know what that means. It means that you can... Multiple games, there's a computer running it, and I bought the actual, like, cabinet outside part from an old coworker. And it's playing a version of The Last Starfighter on it. And you asked me, is this a real video game? And I answered, truthfully, no. But that doesn't mean it doesn't actually exist. There's probably a couple of fan-made versions out there. Yeah, I imagine it's warm from that monitor and...
Yes, still mad that the cat never gets a name. But even just kind of going off of that, because I'm going to jump from there over to some characters and stuff that I found interesting. My first thing that comes to my mind is that I really love the little brother character. I mean, I'm an older sister, having grown up with a younger sister. And although I know that the dynamic between sisters and brothers is completely different, the amount of stuff I relate to just watching him was insane. Just holding a little bit of leverage over your sibling's head to get them to do what you want.
On the bunk beds.
On the bunk beds, too, yeah. Just seeing them interact and seeing little brother just so excited about literally everything. That was really wholesome to kind of watch his, like, little side story. He didn't show up much in it, but the scenes he did show up in did constantly make me smile.
You described him as, like, every one of these things has to have like
a younger sibling that's obsessed with space.
Yeah.
It happens in almost every single sci-fi movie. Like, I don't know. I mean, it makes sense. I get it. And even just like that intro with them starting off the movie, like, what did he say? He was like, alien, as he pointed to, like, the mother or something. I forget what it was exactly. But I always thought that was really cute. I really loved the small town dynamic that they had going on in this. Which, I get it, it's like a trailer park, but, like, same difference. I, like, just everybody coming together when he's about to beat the high score. And even at the end, with everybody coming back in, you kind of get a feel for who the different groups are, even though you only see them briefly. Yeah,
it's definitely a community, and, I mean, it's not like these are not his peers. These are a bunch of
old
middle-aged, elderly people, and that's a thing. You know, but again, I relate to that because I have spent so much of my life, especially my younger years, hanging out with people that were older than me. Mm-hmm. My parents' friends, the people that they'd play music with, the people that we'd see at church. And it just, man, that really rings true, especially in 1984. It makes sense to me.
But interesting, I've had the exact opposite with me. I'm always around people that are younger than me. Somehow, aside from being in school, anytime I'm in any sort of, like, public event, like, take a youth group, for example. Basically, everybody is younger than me. I've almost never had someone in there my same age. In other groups, in clubs, I'm usually always the oldest there. Now, I am into very, like, younger kid stuff, which I get that. But, like, I find it interesting that I've had the opposite experience of you there.
Well, it's not entirely the opposite. In high school and stuff like that, I was always the one available for the younger kids who were looking for a mentor. Now, I am the wrong person to be mentoring anybody.
See, I have done that same thing.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying with that, But outside of that, and you just didn't have enough of that stuff outside of it. On the other hand, when we go to conventions, stuff like that, it's my older friends. They love you as much as they love me.
Even if I literally don't know who they are half the time.
Right, no, but they're so excited and happy to see you. And so and it's that same thing. If you win that costume contest, they're as excited for you as all those old people were excited for Alex winning the game. Mm-hmm. I think the dynamic's there. It's just not one that you notice as much. But I think it's still there, and it still rings true. It's a universal truth.
Yeah. The other thing that just generally comes to mind is, I forget his name. Xander? The guy with the car.
Centauri.
Centauri talks like a mentor in a video game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go into this in a bit, but like also so does his friend who's in the ship with him.
Yes.
They talk like as if like a mentor in a video game. And I noticed that at first when you called out the fact that he was talking in third person. And I was like, yes, because my brain is still recovering and I didn't catch it at first. But like I was making me think, are we going into this video game? Because it seemed like that had a correlation there.
Well, and essentially we are. We're just discovering that the game is real.
Well, yeah, and then the same way with the other one, with him like telling him the controls. I find that interesting, like as if like someone mentoring you in a video game, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm. There's a reason this is in like my video game track of stuff to show you.
Yeah.
But and that's part of that's also the thing with like the arcade machine, because you got to figure, okay, it's 1984. Video games are still new. They're still a novelty. You've grown up with video games. They're just ubiquitous. They're everywhere. That's just a part of life. My parents didn't grow up with video games. They saw them created. I saw them created.
Yeah, that must have been wild.
Seriously, Pong shows up in 1979 or something like that.
Wow.
I got my Atari maybe 2 years before this. Video games did not look this good as they do in the movie.
Yeah.
But they were mystical. They were magical. They were still novel and new and sparkly and fantasy enough that they could be a MacGuffin like that. And it makes sense that, okay, you take this game, you can go anywhere and be anything.
Yeah.
I have a little book from when I was a kid. This little hardcover thing from Weekly Readers Books. I'd receive one of these every month or every other month. My parents had me up on a subscription. So this is basically the same idea. It's called That Video Game from Outer Space. It's before Last Starfighter, but it's the same idea. This video game shows up in the local pizza parlor. The kid beats the high score.
Oh, great. This is turning into a FNAF movie.
And the aliens decide, okay, we need you. We need you to fix our ship with your special power jewels. What special power jewels? Your thumbs. You have thumbs. We don't.
That's amazing.
So, this idea of the magical video game, of the video game taking you somewhere to another world,
mm-hmm.
that it's in the air. It's in the zeitgeist in the early 80s like this.
Yeah, can I just jump back in there real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of our friendly pilot friend in the ship, I just found it funny that the minute he gets out of the car when they first arrive at that station, he grabs a random person from the side. It's like, can you help me? Brings them over. And then suddenly we're in a ship with him later on. We just found this guy and he just happens to be the person that we're with. I found that hilarious. Just pulling off some random guy.
Hey, he's just wandering around. Hey, can you tell me who beat the high score on that video game? No, whomever.
Yeah.
No, Centauri is great, and he's just the epitome of that. I love the car, too.
The car is so cool. I remember noticing when they first landed, the back of it opens and closes for it to go, for like the thrusters to be like there and gone. And I found that so cool. Like something just so simple like that.
And those long shots were in frame. I mean, they built the car. Now, they CGI'd it for when it's flying in space, but they built the car. It's 1984.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, yeah. That car doesn't get enough credit. It should be as iconic as the Back to the Future one.
That's what it made me first think of with the weird door opening.
Mm-hmm. There's something else you thought of when we were looking at the car, and you're like, looking at your notes, like, I knew it! It's a kidnapping!
No, the minute that we were like, take a step into my office, I stepped in there, I wrote on my phone, oh yeah, like, wait, hold on, let me find the exact note here.
When a stranger offers you this candy if you stand inside,
here it is.
Get inside his van.
It's, quote, nothing to be afraid of, and then, except kidnapping. And then the minute, like, he takes off this mask and suddenly he's like a weird blackness with, like, red eyes, I'm like, I knew it! My dad was on the other side of the house, and I screamed, I knew it! But I caught on to that so quickly, and I was like, this is going to be bad. Why are we following this? And that does kind of lead me into, actually, the main thing that bothered me in this movie. I don't like I really hate all the guilt tripping in this. Personally, I've dealt with so much guilt tripping in my life. I don't like it in real life. I don't like it in movies. I hate the fact that every time he wants to say no or wants to leave, they guilt trip him back into it. And I get it. It's for the greater good. Like, it's like to progress the movie. I still hate that. And it still annoyed me throughout the entire movie.
I do see your point. Your feelings are valid. But you also come from a generation that sees guilt as evil. And it's not. Guilt is there to tell you that, hey, think twice because something's wrong here. So I'm torn here.
Well, like, I get that, but it's like, if only we had someone to help us. It's like that particular wording. I really don't like that. It just really irks me.
No, I get it. And I'm like I said, I'm not invalidating your feelings. I'm not entirely with you on that, though. But that's the difference between Gen Z and Gen X, I think.
I don't know.
I see, because I don't think they're wrong about that. Because he's going to die too if this. Well, yeah, and if the bad aliens show up.
Like I said, I get it. I just don't like it.
And you know what? I can totally jump on board with. I can absolutely, because you know what? The guilt or the obligation. I do plenty of things that I don't like because
there's a difference between guilt tripping and obligation, though.
See, that I'm not sure if there is. Maybe it's the context. It's one of those things that we can kind of agree to disagree on. Yeah. But it's also one of those conversations that's a great one to have when we can have it in a safe place like this.
Oh my God.
I want to go back, though, to something else that you mentioned. When he wipes off his face. Oh my!
You mean when he takes his head off?
No.
We'll
we'll
come back to that.
No, when Centauri pulls out the handkerchief, wipes off the human face, there's this black alien with glowing eyes underneath. See, okay, so I have to emphasize again, this is a kid's movie. This is PG. This is the same rating as Lilo and Stitch. Oh. This is not like a grown-up sci-fi adventure. This is a kid's movie. And that is one of those things that absolutely did traumatize me. That is one of the scariest freaking moments I can imagine. That just really it bothered me and it scared me. And now you have to understand, though, also the idea of, grabbing a handkerchief and changing your face. Let me tell you about my grandfather.
Okay. Like Grandpa Skelly?
Yes. Grandpa Skelly had false teeth.
Right.
Dentures, yeah. He would come up to us kids, and he would yank them out.
Oh my God.
And show them to us. Oh. And then he would look at us like, what, can't you do that?
I swear, every time I hear a story about this man, it just makes me like him more and more. It's a shame I never got to meet him while I was conscious.
So, That's not that far removed from grabbing a handkerchief and
Wiping off your face?
Yes. So I that freaked me out as a kid.
Because it's trying to make me think of like, I can't. Honestly, I had a lot of irrational fears that freaked me out. Like when I was a kid, I don't know. I don't really remember if I ever really got necessarily scared. Aside from Cookie Monster, Cookie Monster terrified me as a child. But like I don't know if I ever really experienced that with like with an animated or like non-animated thing.
Well, and that's where I would talk about the difference between kids' movies
then
in
and
your
now.
age and kids' movies in my age.
That's true.
We have a moment in this movie where the robot it's not quite, it hasn't quite formed itself. So the face is still cooking. And we see it laying on the bottom bunk, covered in blankets, and then it pulls the blanket down. And all you see is this pulsating, glowing head. And it is absolutely terrifying. And I mean, even like the bad aliens, those are kind of twisted. Those are Freddy Krueger looking faces.
Yeah, those guys were a little weird.
So some of the stuff gets a little intense. But I just come back to that's the difference between kids' movies in my age and kids' movies in your era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I never really noticed that they were so different. Like, I grew up with, like, the My Little Pony movies, the Barbie movies, things. Those were the main ones I remember from my childhood. Especially the Barbie movies.
I mean, we had simpler stuff, too. We had G.I. Joe and He-Man and stuff like that. I don't know. He-Man was being written by J. Michael Straczynski, who would later go on to do Babylon 5 and stuff like that. But the movies, the films, they trusted you. They didn't talk down to you. And they weren't willing to necessarily pull punches because we're kind of making this mostly for kids.
Yeah, I kind of get that.
So I want to talk about two more things here. Specifically in the cast. So there were a couple people that I told you to kind of look for.
Yeah, the grandma with the shotgun.
Yes, Granny shows up when the ship lands at the end. It's her grandma at the end with the shotgun.
Yeah, grandma with the shotgun. We love grandma with the shotgun.
I mean, she shows up all over the place in the 80s. Frequently in sitcoms and stuff like that. She shows up at least 3 different times in Night Court.
Oh,
as one of the defendants.
Oh,
she also shows up in Mad About You. But the thing I thought was interesting too is ages ago, back when we were going through the original Star Trek, the first series.
Yeah, I think I know which one you mean.
Well, there's an episode where Spock gets put on trial. Like, he goes and kidnaps his old captain and is trying to... And everybody's like, why are you betraying us? Why are you going to this forbidden planet?
Everybody's gone on trial in that series. I'm having a hard time differentiating it. We go to trial a lot in Star Trek. We do a lot of things against the law.
They're really... It's the menagerie, which is an excuse to use the footage from the original pilot called The Cage. And there's a bunch of big bald-headed aliens with pulsating brains that create illusions.
What are they called again? I'm gonna... Oh, those guys that looked like the observers.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna...
He's showing me a picture.
Yeah, and I'm gonna zoom right in there.
Okay.
That's Granny. Granny is one of these aliens. They're overdubbed by men, but they were played by women.
Granny's not grannying.
Granny is a little creepy. I thought that was really just kind of fun.
Yeah, I would have never guessed that.
Down the line here, we're going to eventually get into RoboCop, and I think maybe Halloween 3, which is not a proper Halloween movie. I only bring those up because those feature Dan O'Hurley. Dan O'Hurley Dan O'Hurley plays the navigator, the iguana, the reptilian brown-skinned guy who is piloting the ship with Alex.
Yeah, I remember staring at him.
Okay, so the pilot is an older guy. That was the thing. That's played by an actor named Dan O'Hurley. Dude is 65 in all of that reptilian makeup.
Yeah, that's gotta suck. I can barely deal with wearing a little bit of latex on a regular day.
And he'll later go on to be the old man, the head of the corporation in RoboCop. He'll also be like the main bad guy in Halloween 3. It's just so weird. I hear his voice.
Yeah, you spent like a good couple of minutes trying to figure out who it was. That
voice is so distinctive. And I'm shocked that at that age he's doing that. There's one other thing I want to look at here too, because like I said, this is a kid's movie for my generation. One of the things that goes along with a kid's movie in my generation...
Toys.
Not toys, but
Figures?
Very close.
Figures?
Comic books.
Oh.
I know a lot of this dialogue and a lot of these scenes because I had the comic book adaptions.
That's interesting.
I'm showing you some covers from that, like the assassins and stuff. And you'll see scenes from the movie that are...
That's interesting.
They'll get set photos, but at the same time, they won't get all of it, and things change in the editing room. Huh. So things are a little bit differently. But so many of these lines, so many of these moments, those pauses and that come with me, or what do we do now? We die. I remember more from the comic books because the comic books are on sale. I keep those forever. The movie I go to see once in the summer of 1984.
Yeah.
When I'm 9 years old. It makes a bigger impression.
Yeah, and I feel like I've never really experienced that. I think the closest I've ever come would probably be reading the Harry Potter books to actually watching them like after I've already read the books. Mm-hmm. But even then, they were already out by the time I was reading the books. So like, I've never really experienced that. That's really cool.
See, in 1984, we don't have a VCR yet.
Oof.
There's no recording it. There's no playing it back. It was in the theater. You will never see it again unless maybe it shows up on TV one night. So, the comic books, I think, are really integral to part of my generation's memory of this.
That is pretty interesting.
Well, that is the last StarFighter. We'll be back next week with something different.
Boom! Yay!
Yeah.
Bye!